So we all know how the Super Bowl went. How was the food? Everybody's food better than the game, Brandon?
Man, I can't even remember what we made for the Super Bowl. That was 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Dude, I had leftovers. I had wings. I ate those today. I still had some wings left over. I ate those.
You know what? We had pizza.
Okay.
So it was all right. Nothing crazy.
Air fried pizza?
No, not air fried.
You said you can air fry everything.
Well, you can. I'm sure if you have a big enough air fryer, you can air fry pizza.
What you do is you take a piece of dough, you cut it in the shape of a pizza, and then you put all your toppings on it and stick it in the air fryer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Do that.
Yeah, no, we did wings too. We did wings and fries, and it was good. Great.
You know what? Did you fry them? Did you bake them? Or did you order them?
Air fried them.
Oh, you air?
Yeah, we air fried the wings and the fries.
We have to get
air fried wings are awesome, aren't they?
We have to get an air fry sponsor for this show. Just saying.
We should. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I'm telling you, air fried wings are so good.
We make homemade fries in the air fry. I mean, we just cut
those
potatoes. Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah, Aunt Kelly has that on lockdown right there.
Yep. So that's all. You can't go wrong with wings for the Super Bowl. You just can't.
Welcome here to the midweek food breakdown. We're going to give you the best air fried foods here every single week. We're going to do a new one now. I'm just kidding. Super Bowl 59 in the books. Eagles and President Trump, the big winners. Chiefs and Taylor Swift, the big losers. Let's talk the good, bad, and the ugly. I'll start with the good. For me, the Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Brandon, what was your good from the Super Bowl?
My good from the Super Bowl, honestly, was, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was incredible in this Super Bowl. 17 for 22, 221 yards, only 221 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw the one horrible pick like that. He was getting hit when he threw it. But he did throw the one bad pick, but he was only sacked twice out of 11 hurries.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran for 72 yards and a touchdown. It's the old tush push. Jalen Hurts is definitely my good from the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Or the brotherly shove, whichever one you prefer.
Right. Yeah, whatever.
Go Birds.
Either one. Dalton, you got a good
Go Birds.
Just the good for me is the good for me is
okay. Hang on, pause. So I have to tell Anthony this story, and I'm going to tell it live on the air. So, do you remember Sarah McCord from high school?
Name, yes.
Anthony. So she's married to a guy that is a big in politics in the Oklahoma State Capitol. His name's Trey Thompson. So she's Sarah Thompson now. But they took a vacation. I'm going to have to text her and tell her that I used her in our podcast. They took a vacation. I wish I would have thought about it and I would have saved the video and sent it to you. They went to Philly on a historical vacation. They went and saw the Liberty Bell. They went and did a bunch of the fun stuff. Well, she did this live on TikTok or something that was like, so I've heard that people in Philadelphia weren't very nice. So I went and bought this beanie, and she bought an Eagles beanie, and she had this big heavy coat on with the furry stuff up here, and you could just see the eagle right here. And she's like, so I thought they would like me. Well, now apparently I'm just like a local, because every time they holler at me or every time they see me, they yell, "Go Birds!" But aren't they the Eagles? They're not the Birds. That's stupid. So Sarah, whenever you see this, because I'm going to send it to you when we're done. Yeah. I loved that. I got a huge kick out of that. It was great.
And just so we talk fried air frying foods. We tell stories of our friends, and then we also get political and talk about the reason the education needs to be demolished by Doge. I'm just kidding. We're not going to get into that, but that was a good example right there. Eagles are not birds. That's what we learned in Mustang.
Well, they're birds. Why not say "Go Eagles" is what she was saying.
I get it. That's funny. We're talking good about the Super Bowl.
Good for me was just the fact that Kansas City was bad.
I like that. That's good. Yeah. And so that will be your bad as well, I guess. I'll start with my bad. I actually have two. My bets in Prize Picks, those are bad because it didn't win one of them. And the halftime show. Brandon, you got a bad?
I mean, my bad was just the Chiefs' offensive line. But I mean, I'm gonna be technical about it, but the Chiefs' offensive line, I mean, getting Patrick Mahomes sacked 6 times on 31 hurries. He threw you know how many times he threw the ball? 32. You know how many times he was hurried? 31. 6 sacks on 31 hurries. And the Eagles never blitzed Patrick Mahomes. Not one time in the game. That's the 6th time in the history of the NFL, or of the Super Bowl, not the NFL playoffs, but the 6th time in the history of the Super Bowl that a team hasn't blitzed one time. All 6 of those teams have won. And that's because they got home with 4 and they could play good defense on the back end. Yep. My bad is definitely the Kansas City offensive line. It was awful.
Dalton, what's your bad?
The Kansas City game plan? I don't know. They did one thing right, and that was shut down Saquon. They went into the game saying, we're not going to let Saquon get loose. What was the stat we said? He was averaging in the playoffs for his touchdown runs of 32 yards. Yeah. So they said, you know what? We're going to shut down Saquon, and that's the only thing they did right. So their game plan the rest of the way was absolutely horrible. I guess the one bad, which it's really hard to complain about this, but because I'm not a Kansas City fan and because I live with all of the Kansas City fans, the one bad was the very first penalty against Philadelphia on a 4th down conversion, a beautiful pass, a great catch. And then we all thought right there, okay, this is how this game's going to go. But the funny thing was, if you remember, Saquon was just telling everybody on the sidelines, you knew you were going to deal with this crap, so move on, play through it. And then the next thing you know, that just their mentality was to win. I did not expect that game. And Kansas City was bad just in general. They were horrible. It was not a great football game. And the birds came to play.
Brandon, like your bad, my ugly is the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. So they could fit in either one of them. I thought it was very ugly for their quarterback, that's for sure. What's your ugly in this one?
My ugly is just the overall offensive performance in the first half of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Philadelphia Eagles ran 38 plays in the first half. The Kansas City Chiefs had 23 yards in the first half.
That's crazy.
The Eagles ran 38 more plays than the Chiefs had yards in the first half of that game.
Yeah.
Just the overall performance in the first half killed them. And then they come out, they go 3 and out quick in the second half to start the second half. And then Jalen Hurts with the 50-yard touchdown pass in an absolute dime to Devontae Smith over his shoulder on the run in the middle of the end zone. Just absolute perfect pass. And at that point, I was pretty confident, but you just never know with Patrick Mahomes. So I wasn't saying it was over at that point, but my ugly is just the overall performance of the Kansas City Chiefs when it mattered. I mean, yeah, they got some points towards the end of the game, whatever. I mean, that's because the Eagles' third string players were in. They were just trying to get players time in the Super Bowl. And so the Kansas City Chiefs offense was abysmal in that game.
Yeah. Dalton, ugly.
The ugly was the fact that they didn't even try to run the football. They rushed the ball 11 times, and 4 of those were Patrick Mahomes. So the running backs were not even part of the game. Against the Bills, they rushed the ball 35 times. I texted my team at one point because I've got a ton of Kansas City fans on my team, and I just straight up asked, is Kansas City even trying? I mean, all of their routes were deep routes. They didn't even try to. Late in the game, they started throwing the ball a little bit better, but early in the game, there weren't those quick pop passes to Travis Kelce. They didn't use their running backs as like an extension of the run game. They didn't get the ball out of Pat's hands quick. Like, their game plan just made no sense to me, and it was ugly.
Indeed, but it fun if you're just like anybody but the Chiefs. That was a great game. I mean, and there's a lot of those for sure, especially after the last couple of years, and particularly, I think the whole refs are involved. It grew really big this season. There's a lot of very obvious calls. It was like, well, this feels a little fishy. I did think there was a guy who used to, I don't remember his real name. I just know that he used to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. I say his real name because he's a pro wrestler now. His name was Baron Corbin. And he said, I don't understand the hate for Kansas City. Like, take yourself out of just being a fan and you'll understand the hate for Kansas City this past year. Yeah. If you're a fan, everything's fine. If you're not a fan, there's absolutely nothing fine about the Kansas City Chiefs this past season. Let's move over to softball. OU softball, well, softball in general, off and rolling, but the Lady Sooners are hitting the ground running in softball. B, how's that looking for you, man?
I mean, dude, coming off the 4th championship in a row, back-to-back championships. They've started the season 5-0. They had a California swing to start the season. Played teams like Long Beach State, Loyola Marymount, Cal State Fullerton, California Baptist, San Diego State. And most of those games they handled with ease. Here's the deal. None of those teams are teams that are going to be as well equipped and as talented as the players as the teams in the SEC. Sunday, it took Oklahoma 11 innings to beat Long Beach State 2-0. And they stranded, if I'm not mistaken, 16 runners on base in 11 innings. They stranded in the first 3 innings, they stranded the bases loaded twice and runners on second and third once. So in the first 3 innings, they had stranded 8 batters. And the second and third with no outs, and second and third with 1 out, and one of the bases loaded was with 1 out. And they ended up getting a strikeout and a pop out, I think, on the third one. But OU's not the OU we're used to seeing. I will say that there are certain players you can pitch around to get to somebody that is not nearly as good in the batter's box. Defensively, OU's playing great. One bright spot for me so far has been Sydney Sanders, who I know we didn't talk a whole lot of softball in the Brain Trust last year, but Sydney Sanders last year, I know this isn't the fact, but I felt like she hit like 2 balls out of the infield the whole year. She had these weak little pop-ups. She was always behind. She was always late on the swing. She would always get behind in the count. She is stroking the ball right now. I mean, in the game against Long Beach State on Sunday, her first 3 at-bats were it wasn't Long Beach State. It was the game on Saturday against Loyola Marymount. Her first 3 at-bats were double in the gap off the wall, single to right field, and a home run. And I hadn't seen that out of her. So very bright spot for her. Her defense has always been pretty good. Very bright spot out of her. We have Cassidy Pickering and Ella Parker that are both going to hit for large averages, probably into the season, right at or above the 400 mark for the season. Both of them will hit, double digit, probably closer to 20 home runs each, because they both can stroke the ball. That is if they don't get pitched around. We have a few glaring discrepancies or glaring weaknesses in our batting lineup. And so it's early in the season. Last year we lost early. We lost a game early to Louisiana, of all people. Not LSU, just Louisiana. And came back and won our 4th national title in a row. But we also graduated 5 All-Americans, and I think 2 of them were 4-time All-Americans, and 2 of them were 2-time All-Americans. So we graduated so much talent last year. It may have been the best softball team to ever grace the planet. And that says a lot coming from OU. But I mean, they were unbelievable. I don't think we're going to have that pop this year, especially once we get into conference play, because the SEC is going to be tough. Sure. But it's going to be tough. I think we still have a chance to make the tournament at the end of the season. If we can make the tournament at the end of the season, you never know, because it's a home field, basically. Playing here in Oklahoma City, they're 20 miles away from home. And so they can sleep in their own beds every night. It's just those things that make them comfortable. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's way early, 5 games into the season against 5 nobodies, basically.
Well, speaking of home field, the actual home field, a brand new home field, Love Field. How does that look on TV as you've been watching these?
Dude, well, they haven't had any games there yet this year.
Oh, they haven't had there? Okay, got it.
No,
they spent a lot of time in California.
Oh yeah, all 5 of these games were on the West Coast. So
Okay,
it was nice and warm out there.
haven't even been broken in yet.
Much colder here. So Love's Field is awesome. I mean, they played some different exhibition games, whatever, in Love's Field, and it's incredible. So all the hype for Love's Field is legit. It is really cool. It's going to be awesome. It'll be great to get them back here. Hopefully, I can catch a game or two there.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be fun to watch, and love to, as you continue to follow that, bring us the reports and see if kind of the streak or the feel of the team doesn't change once they get on their brand new home turf too.
One other thing is Patty Gasso, legendary 31-year head coach at Oklahoma, made the tournament the last 17 years, was named as USA Softball's head coach for the 2028 Olympics, with softball coming back to the Olympics. So
wow, okay.
That was pretty cool this year.
That's really cool. I mean, you can't pick anybody better, I don't think.
No, there's not a better softball coach on the planet.
No. Agreed. Oklahoma City Thunder, a great episode with Brandon Rabar 2 weeks ago. He talked about how good this team was, even without their best player. Well, now the Thunder has their best player back. Dalton, I'll start with you on this. How are you feeling after the return?
Well, it's definitely encouraging to get Chet back. And it's back. I mean, when we talked with Brandon a couple weeks ago, he didn't expect to get his first game back until after the All-Star break. So the fact that we're getting him back now with Isaiah Hartenstein back, I mean, Brandon actually tweeted out a couple days ago when they both played in the same game, the stats of here's how many games we played with Isaiah Hartenstein without Chet. Here's how many games we played with Chet without Hartenstein. And so it was their first, it was like the game 50. It was their first one back together. And just as a Thunder fan, you're really encouraged by that, because now after playing a few games, they're getting ready to go into the All-Star break, got 2 left. And so they can just kind of rest their bodies, continue to get them back to that game speed, into that game shape that they need to be in. But I mean, Oklahoma City currently has 2 dudes that are averaging 20 or more points, and Shea and Jalen Williams. And Shea is still going to be that MVP type guy. I mean, the other day he had 28 points at halftime, finished with 50. They got Miami Heat tonight, who is now without Jimmy Butler, which Jimmy Butler to Golden State, if you paid attention to that, it was super weird to me. I just do not see how that's going to work out. The Heat were one of those teams that was fighting for Kevin Durant, did not get Kevin Durant. So now the Heat are just kind of, they got Bam Adebayo. They've still got Tyler Hero. They're an okay team in the East, but Oklahoma City is a 13.5-point favorite for that one. Should not have an issue on the road. They've won they're undefeated in February, and their win margin, I think I saw, was 23.5 in the month of February. So they're just absolutely dominating basketball right now, and I don't see them slowing down tonight. Minnesota's a better team than the Heat, in my opinion, but you still have to guard too many people on this team. And something that I love about watching Oklahoma City is so many people talk about ISO basketball, but the NBA is all about players being able to get to their spots. So when we see Shea go one-on-one against dudes, it's because we've created a mismatch that he likes, and it's a matchup that he thinks he can score on. And you always see him scoring from specific spots. So he's always getting to where he can lift into his jumper and where he feels comfortable turning which way. Just incredible to watch. And so this Oklahoma City Thunder team should get 2 more wins, I think, going into the All-Star break.
I heard a stat today from one of the radio guys. Go ahead.
First, let me ask you this. You were just at a game, I believe, last week. How's the atmosphere with a team that is just balling like the Thunder are right now?
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, we got beat in that game that I went to. It was versus Dallas.
Okay.
We got beat in that game, and the atmosphere was loud and raucous until the very end. I've been there for playoff games. I've been to one NBA Finals game versus the Heat back in the day when we had the first big 3 in Oklahoma City. Nobody wants to come to Oklahoma City to play. Nobody does, and it's evident when you see the other teams resting players on the second night or a first night of a back-to-back, and they don't want to play there. They know that it's a horrible place for opposing teams to come in and play. I mean, we are so good at home, so good anyways. But going off of what Dalton said earlier, I heard a stat today on the radio. One of the radio guys said they did some deep dives into the statistics, and when SGA gets to his spot, either at the elbow where he takes that little jump shot or on the baseline where he takes that little fadeaway jump shot, he's shooting like 72% this year when he gets to his spot, which is insane. He's making basically 3 out of every 4 shots that he takes from that spot. The thing with Chet coming back is it really opens up everything, because Isaiah Hartenstein, the only player on our team with a championship ring, right? Or to play in the finals, maybe a championship, I don't remember. But he can shoot the 3, but he has not been very good shooting the 3. But since Chet's been back, it's opened that up a little more for him, because they're down low guarding Chet, they're doubling down, and he's kicking it out. And Hartenstein's 3-point percentage since he's been back has gone up drastically. In Chet's first 2 games back, he had 9 blocks. And there was a couple times he hit the floor, and I was like, oh, no. But he hopped right back up. I mean, broken hip, you never know what can happen coming back from that.
Yeah,
but
very true.
He got back from that quick, and when he was able to get up off the floor quick, it made me feel really good. But we have so many players playing good right now. Wiggins is playing out of his mind right now. Even Ousmane Dieng, who I have felt to this point in his career with the Thunder had been a pretty big bust. Even Ousmane, with the minutes that he's getting, is really coming on strong so far this season. And I kind of expect him to be, a player that maybe moves after his first contract and goes somewhere else. But he's playing really good. So many people are playing good. Jay Will is playing really good. Caruso, Hartenstein, obviously our starters. I mean, just all these guys are playing so good. Nobody wants to play us right now. And nobody wants to play us. I heard Shannon Sharpe today on First Take say, well, now that Luka's at the Lakers, Oklahoma City doesn't want any of us. If we meet them in the Western Conference Finals, we're going to wax them. And I'm like, everybody else on the show was like, what are you talking about? Dude, how much crack did you smoke before you came in here?
Shannon Sharpe.
Yeah, Shannon Sharpe, Hall of Fame football player. Great athlete.
Exactly.
Actually was in high school, was a better basketball player than a football player.
Was he? Okay.
So,
right.
He was. He was. Football was his number 2 sport. Basketball was his number 1 sport. But a Hall of Fame player in the NFL, great player. But
yeah,
he's kind of crazy with some of his takes, and everybody ripped him for that today and just basically laughed him off the air.
CTE.
Something. I could think of some other acronyms, but I don't know that I'm able to use them on the podcast.
When are you going back to a game?
I actually had an option to go to the game tonight. Somebody texted me and was like, hey, I don't assume you would want tickets for tonight's game. And I was like, you would be correct. I don't want tickets for tonight's game. 1, I have to buy
it's ice.
And 2, it's icy outside. And 3, we're going to kill them. And it's not even worth going and watching. So we'll see what happens. But I'm super stoked for the Thunder. And they're playing great right now. I mean, they're just playing really good right now.
We're less than a week removed from the end of football season as it stands with the Super Bowl 59. But March 28th is the kickoff of UFL. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this will be the first time we have 2 seasons in a row of whatever makeup of this organization. The very first time it was XFL, it lasted 1 season. It came back as XFL, it lasted half of a season because of COVID. Then it came back and did 1 season and then merged with the USFL and became the UFL. That was last season. UFL continues this year for the 2nd season, and it kicks off on March 28th. So you don't have that long. You have a little less than a month and a half for football.
Not too long to watch some more football. It's not great football. but not too long to watch some more football.
It has moments. It's not great though. Yes, exactly. But I think you got to start somewhere, right? There's some good guys that come out of that organization, and specifically XFL in the past. If you're looking for something else, UFC is coming up on Saturday night. They always have something every single weekend, whether it's a pay-per-view or it's a fight night. This weekend we get a fight night, and it's coming up on Saturday night. Listen, you may not know the names as well as you may know some of the big guys that are on pay-per-views, or maybe how they build up the stories for the pay-per-views. But I will say that some of the best KOs happen on fight night. What's cool about this is you get to see some guys and girls before they hit the big time, and or some people working their way back up. But you also get to see it for free. I say for free. If most people have ESPN Plus now, you get 6 fights on the main card, 7 on the prelims. That's like 4 hours, 5 hours of UFC fights, and it comes up on a Saturday. So if you just can't find anything you want, maybe you're not into it, and you never tried it, or you never, like I said, you don't know who's actually fighting. And Dalton doesn't care, so he just left the show, and he's like, "Screw the UFC, I'm not in." Where'd he go? He just left. He gone. He's like, yeah, I'm out. I talked about basketball and I'm done. No, but UFC, I will tell you, it's what it was. I don't know, even on the pay-per-views, a lot of the names, but I will tell you that every time I see that it's on and I turn it on, I'm never disappointed. At least if I would say if it's 2 fights in a row. The first one, you may find 2 guys that just hug the entire time, or you might find one that's a ground and pound, and another guy that's a wrestler, and just the styles clash doesn't work out. But I will say you don't see those back to back typically. You'll get a good knockout, you'll get a good submission, you'll get some really good action, especially on these fight nights, because everybody has something to prove. We're both kind of casual fans of UFC. You be tuning in on Saturday?
You know, I think I might. I mean, I know the weather's not going to be great here. It's gonna be chilly, so we won't be doing anything outside for sure. Well, I might tune into some of this. I mean, it's on ESPN Plus. I have ESPN Plus, so actually, I have Dalton's ESPN Plus, but I have an ESPN
Plus.
The
show, so take whatever you want. Absolutely.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't cancel it between now and then, because we started talking about UFC, then I should be able to watch some of it. I'll probably watch a little bit of it. I probably won't watch 5 hours of it or 6 hours.
Yeah, no.
There he is.
I don't do that either. Well, you didn't want to talk about UFC, so you just left?
Thanks for joining us, bro.
Yeah, that was wild.
So I don't know if you wanted to prove that you got knocked out as we're talking about KOs.
I didn't even hear you start talking about UFC.
Oh, you did? That's funny. It must have just.
Oh, you were on when we started talking about it, but
we were talking UFL, and all of a sudden, my laptop went black.
Just dead. But it's back now.
But it's back. So, yeah.
Are you going to watch any of the UFC on Saturday, Dalton?
No, I will be in Iowa.
Who you playing?
Chuck and Cord.
We play Emmaus University and Faith Baptist, and then we drive back Saturday night late. So
you play 2 games on Saturday?
No, 1 on Friday night. We leave tomorrow. 1 on Friday night, 1 on Saturday.
Okay.
All right. How long of a drive is that?
4.5.
It's not bad.
Not terrible. Is there a Buc-ee's to stop at between here and there?
No.
That's always the same, Grace. Brandon knows what I'm talking about. That's the place you stop when you're driving in Texas.
Yeah,
like
Buc-ee's are great.
Next Buc-ee's, yes.
Yeah, I'm always like, hey, Kelly, go ahead and map the next Buc-ee's so I know how long I have to wait.
That's right. Absolutely. Hey, if you're not subscribed to this show yet, we'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube right now, hit subscribe, hit like. You'll never miss an episode. Notification bell will remind you as well. If you're listening, thank you for doing that as well. And why don't you tell somebody else about it? Listen, all that stuff is free for you to do. We're not asking for any money. We're not asking you to support us in any other way except for tell a friend about the midweek breakdown and share the love. Let's talk some sports, even outside of football. We always work it back in.
Share it on your social medias.
Yeah, that'd be great too. We always work football back in somehow. We will do that on pretty much every episode, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love.
Next week we're talking about the National Paper Football Championships.
That's right. Absolutely.
No, I'm just kidding.
Those are good. Those are good, man. I'll tell you, they're action packed.
Yeah, some pretty tough hits in that.
Shannon Sharpe's really great at it as well.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. God. Yeah, whatever. I will say the one thing I did see of Shannon Sharpe this week was super cool. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but his brother shows up at his house, Sterling Sharpe, who should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not, shows up to his house, and his wife answers the door, and he's like, "Hey, is Shannon here?" And he's like, yeah, come on in. And she's like, "He's downstairs." So he goes downstairs, and Shannon Sharpe's standing there in his gold Hall of Fame jacket as Sterling walks down the steps. And Sterling's like, "What is going on here?" And he's like, "Welcome to the Pro Football Hall of Fame." Those always get me. I've seen so many of those. Those always get me. And he actually got to tell his own brother that he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His bust will forever be memorialized in Canton, and so that was really cool. Sterling's like, I got to sit down, and I need a drink. He's like looking around like, who's going to make me a drink?
Yeah, exactly. There's probably a couple bottles there.
Super cool because growing up, most people probably don't know this, but growing up, their grandparents raised them because their parents. Okay. I'm not sure. I don't want to say they died at an early age because I don't know if that's the case. Their parents weren't in the picture for some reason. And so their grandparents raised him. Well, then grandpa died, and it was just his grandma and whatever. Well, grandpa had always impressed so much upon Sterling Sharpe to be a man and do things right because you know your little brother is trying to follow everything you do. And then to see that kind of go full circle and little brother tell him that he's going to the Hall of Fame was super cool.
Big brother. That is cool.
It was super cool. Well, guys, it's been fun.
Yes.
You know what they say, right?
The weekend is good,
but the midweek is always better.
And boom goes the dynamite.